So this, we start today with that very beautiful line which we have read last time. God found in nature, nature fulfilled in God. This was the realization of Ashwapati. God found in nature, manifesting or discovering the divine in everything, in the world of manifested matter and life and mind. And that is the purpose of this world of manifestation. Nature fulfilled in God, to divinize the earth, is the purpose, the creator's purpose, so that the gap between man and God, earth and spirit, is no longer there. So in him already that unification between the human and the divine was beginning to be evident. Already in him was seen that task of power, that task of greatness, of the change of the human nature, which is open to the divine inhabitant, manifesting the divine in everything, in body, in life, in mind, in action, in thought, in speech. That was already beginning. His life made its home on the high tops of self. This is where we can compare what was going on in him and then in us. To live on the higher levels of our nature, it is possible. Life is a force of manifestation, force of expression. To express that, his soul, mind, heart became a single sum. So the whole being, not quite the whole yet, but soul, mind, heart became expressions of light. Slowly the whole being will have to become an expression of light. As yet, the lower parts of the being were not yet transformed. But it is a beginning. And so the next line, only life's lower reaches remained dim. Lower levels, the lower vital, the subconscious, the unconscious, the material body, they had not begun to receive and manifest the light. It takes much longer, since the world of matter is really founded on inertia and resistance and darkness. Therefore, it is less receptive to light. The rest have aspired. In the mind there is an opening, in the heart there is an aspiration and love. So there the touch of the divine slowly begins to change his nature. But the lower part was still what it was before. But now, but there too, in the uncertain shadow of life, the lower vital. The vital is a force of manifestation of existence, and so there is the higher vital manifesting itself through the heart, through our higher energies turning towards something more beautiful, more noble. There is an opening. But every light has a shadow as long as man is still divided. So there is also at the same time the element of resistance, the element of ignorance. There, that change had not yet begun. But, it had begun, but it was not yet quite evident. There was a labor and a fiery breath So there had to be a churning. There had to be a kind of breaking down of the resistance. And so the power of change had to be much more strong. There was a labor to bring into existence, to give birth to a new life, a new body. And that is where finally Mother's yoga was centered. And a fiery breath, the ambiguous cowl the celestial presence worked. Cowled, covered. The divine force seemed to have accepted to be covered in darkness. In the darkness, quietly from within, from below, the work is going on. There is a descent from above. There is a push from below, push from of the divine, fighting the resistance, fighting the darkness, the inertia. Therefore, ambiguous, which means it is both one who puts on the aspect of truth and puts on the aspect of that which doesn't seem to be the truth. It is true. The ambiguous has put on, the divine has covered his head in darkness, and having covered his head in darkness has entered into the darker world. And from there, from below, from within, he is churning, he is working. And that is why it is so much more hard and difficult. In the God's labor, Sri Aurobindo speaks of how he has gone down into the night, into the darkness, how long it takes, because these lower worlds have emerged out of the original inconscience. The roots go down deep into the resistant inconscience. From there to bring out that hidden consciousness, because originally all is the supreme consciousness. Therefore, this supreme consciousness is at the same time what is the hidden in the inconscience. Therefore, it is an ambiguous force. If there were no inconscience, there would be no suffering. If there were no suffering, there would be no need for change. And so, this is his secret weapon. In the lower worlds, there is pain, there is sorrow, there is suffering. Thanks to that, there is felt in the human resistant nature a realization that has to be changed. This can't go on. So when we receive blows, when we get hurt, when we have lost our way, when we don't know where to go and how to proceed, there is this power that tells us you have to wake up, you have to open your eyes, you can't stay dormant forever. Otherwise, this division in the nature, that one part of the nature will continue to make errors, will continue to fall, will continue to fail, whereas your higher being may reach the highest levels of consciousness. This was some of the experiences of the Vedantic rishis. They did a profound, you might say, tapasya, and arrived at the higher worlds. But they also admitted that since the lower nature is extremely difficult to convince to change, they abandon that effort. Concentrate on the heart, concentrate on the mind, concentrate on the higher levels of consciousness, arrive at greater realizations of light, whereas at the same time, the lower nature remained low. It is as if something had to be just left behind, or you accept that in my nature there are still darker elements and I can't remove them. In the integral yoga of Sri Aurobindo, this is not accepted. If it's integral, the integral being has to change. It takes longer, it is harder. So that presence, that grace, that energy, the divine mother power who is always working in the attempt and then finally in the she arrives at creating a new being. But it is a labor, it is hard, it is difficult. So she is the worker, she is the energy who has plunged in the darkness. The Supreme Consciousness stands above, forever undisturbed, however long it takes. So the ambiguous, cowled celestial presence worked, watched by the inner witness's moveless peace. That is why the divine is undisturbed. However long we may take, however we may try to contradict the divine, refuse to change, the divine is untroubled because that change, that ultimate realization is inevitable. The resistance has to resist, that is its nature. The battle has to happen. It is part of the process of growth. So this is the whole problem of man. And even of this greater man who is consciously working on himself. So because he is opening himself, realizing why we have to struggle and suffer and make our lower nature more open, more luminous, there are periods of receptivity to a higher grace and a higher force. If we call, if we attempt, we receive the light which is always there all around us. All we need to do is to open ourselves. So even on the struggling nature left below, strong periods of illumination came. There were periods. It was not completely a division between the lower and the higher parts of the being. Lightnings of glory after glory burnt. The lightning flashes in the dark. It is sudden illumination. The lightning illumines, the lightning destroys. Destroys impurity, destroys what resists. So there was this inner struggle where the battle between light and darkness continued always. In fact, the journey of man is a journey of a clash between darkness and light, always. So there were periods where lightnings of glory after glory burnt. Experience was a tale of blaze and fire. The same thing, illumination, burning down opposition, battle with the lower forces whose role is to resist, whose role is that we have, their role is to fulfill their job, and their job is not to accept the divine. And it is because of this that there is suffering. Because of the suffering, the aspiration and the need is felt in the lower nature that something fundamental has to be altered. If things were easier, we would not perhaps make that basic, strong, fundamental battle. We would not have that. And so, here, even in the lower consciousness, lightnings of glory after glory burnt. Experience was a tale of blaze and fire. Air rippled round the argosies of the gods. Air is the field of consciousness. Air is what connects us with the world around, the world above. And so from there, the treasures of the divine wisdom, the divine light, the divine love would approach. He gives you the image of the argosies. Argosies were ships that travelled across, they travelled in groups, carrying great wealth, and that is why they always travelled in groups, crossing long distances across the seas. In the ancient world, much of the trade was maritime. not by land, which was not safe. So here the gods, they come from the oceans of across the universe, bringing down light and joy, the treasures of knowledge and beauty and love. So air rippled like water ripples round the argosies of the gods. Strange riches. This is where even in the lower nature there are visions suddenly. There are experiences of something totally unknown to man. A new world is seen. A new force is felt. So strange riches sailed to him from the unseen. Splendors of insight. This is very important. Not sight, not vision, to see what is behind the outer appearance, that is insight, to have a kind of knowledge. The insight is a form of knowledge. It's not simply a sense experience. The sense experience is supported by a deeper perception, a deeper knowledge, and takes us further into the truth. That is the difference between those of us who just see things from the outside, and we all have tendencies of drawing conclusions from whatever we see, surface conclusions. The person who has insight sees beyond. He sees, goes deeper into the experience, sees what is within, not what is above, but what is within. And that is when our judgment changes, our outlook changes, we look at things in a different way. And perhaps when we go deep into the heart of darkness, if we have the true insight, we see the hidden light. Then it is splendid that in the heart of darkness are the pearls of light. This is part of the occult experiences. Mother speaks of it also in one of her experiences. Splendors of insight filled the blank of thought. First of all, the first condition, there must be no preconceived ideas. The mind has to be empty. Then you can see. Usually when we see, even with our first surface eyes, we see with the mind that is constantly judging and say, this is good, this is not so good, this is beautiful, this is not so beautiful. We have preformed notions of what is good and bad, what is ugly and beautiful. Then we can never see the thing as it should be, as it is. Everything has its own fundamental existence. If we can wipe off all these movements of thought in the mind, then there is a projection of the experience in our vision, of what we are seeing. Seeing is deepened by understanding. A deeper understanding comes. A deeper relationship with the world around us comes. Otherwise, we have preformed judgments. And we really can never see anything for what it really is. That is why he says, splendors of insight filled the blank of thought. Knowledge spoke to the inconscient stillnesses. In the lower nature, there is a quietness, because inertia is a covering. Beneath the inertia is the secret of rest. The universe is based on a certain rest. A being upholds the universe. That being sleeps. Always in the occult worlds, in the ancient traditions, one speaks of the sleeping law that is at the core, at the base of all things. Is upholding the whole play of change and manifestation. And so there is a luminousness beneath the darkness, beneath the inertia, beneath the unmoving, you might say, resistance. There is the unmoving peace. In the tamas is really rest, repose. So knowledge spoke. He saw that presence of the divine in the darkness. Rivers poured down of bliss and luminous force. Visits of beauty, storm sweeps of delight. The other side, the sense of joy and beauty that is there in the world of matter, the world of form. It is not only in the world of feelings and emotions and thoughts that there is beauty. There is also beauty in the world of shape and line and form. And it is that which reveals the divine presence in everything. When I can see the divine presence in every form, in every particle of dust, in every particle of the stone or the wave in the water, then you see that it's like a kind of a revelation that the divine is manifesting himself in matter. Matter is not something to be abandoned. Earlier yogas had thought you should move away from the world of matter. Matter takes us away from the concentration of the divine, on the divine. Instead, matter is a concentration of the divine. The divine is present in every particle of matter. Once we relate to that, you find him present in everything. And so it's like a storm sweet of delight. The ananda that comes with it rained from the all-powerful mystery above. Mystery is that secret knowledge, the truth that is beyond the mind. Once that inner being has become open and quiet, thence stooped. From there, that is, thence stooped the eagles of omniscience. Omniscience is all knowledge. Eagle is a bird of power. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is not something where we are trying out this and say, is this right? Is that wrong? Should I do this? This is the attempt mind makes. But when you have the direct knowledge, then only you have a connection with the world of light and truth. And so it's like a bird that swoops down exactly on its prey. The prey is the world of manifestation. Into the world of manifestation, you see the swooping down of the light and the truth, and you see the presence in all things. A dense veil was rent, was torn, the veil of ignorance, the veil even more difficult of half-knowledge. Mind is so sure of its knowledge. A dense veil was rent, a mighty whisper heard. It's a beautiful phrase. The energy, the presence, the force, the vibration, it is there in all things. The force that moves, the force that vibrates. If we are very quiet, we can recognize this like something that is continuously there, almighty, all-powerful, but for us, it is not there. If we are trapped in our mental world where we think we know, you say this world is silent, the world of matter is silent. The world of stone doesn't speak. It does. It is the origin, like in the world of stone and matter. All the forces of life are waiting to emerge. It is from there that life has emerged, from the world of sand and stone. So he realizes that the play of the evolutionary change of growth, from darkness to light, implies that the light is already hidden deep within. You can hear that working, moving, guiding from below. Repeated in the privacy of his soul. This is experienced in his soul, not the mind. The soul, that means it is a knowledge by direct identity. We realize the presence of the divine at work in all things when we have recognized the divine in ourselves. And from within, we relate to the divine in all things around us. That is why it is repeated in the soul, not with the help of the philosophical mind, but with the capacity to become what you know. And that is, according to Sri Aurobindo, the only valid knowledge. You know something because you become that. That is your essential soul. A wisdom cry from rapt transcendences sang on the mountains of an unseen world. The forces from below are manifesting the divine. The forces above are manifesting the divine. So the whole sense of something that is undivided, it is like a sphere. In a spherical consciousness, there is no high, there is no low. There is no upper world and lower world. It is in the mind that we make divisions. So there are voices, the wisdom come from beyond, above. They are singing on the mountains of an unseen world. He uses often the image of the mountain. Mountain is something that symbolizes the aspiration of the earth, of matter, rising up from below straight upwards as far as it can go. So in our inner life also, if there is this upsurge from within to move higher and higher towards realms that are still unknown, the voices that an inner listening hears conveyed to him their prophet utterances. These are the fields of experience that open up to us. The prophet is one for whom the future is already present. He knows. He knows the goal, he knows the end, he knows the process. Man proceeds one step at a time. For him, the future is unknown. But when I live in the all, my consciousness is one with the all, then the truth of tomorrow is already there, present. And because it is there, just like the goal is present before the journey begins, I move to the goal because it is already there. So these voices that guide come when the opening is there, the connection with the truth is there. So the inner listening, the inner turning to listen to that guide. There is always a guide. That guide shows us the way. The other parts of our being distract. Desires, emotions, thoughts, feelings. They take us on all kinds of different, you might say, directions. But if one is completely quiet, the guidance is always there and it draws, it shows us the way to that prefigured goal. It is already present. Therefore, Sri Aurobindo describes the image of the world, of the higher planes, the supramental, for instance. He says it's a sphere, it's not a line. Mind follows a line of thought. In the supermind, it is a circular pattern. Where does a circle begin? Where does it end? It's one whole. What is below is above. What is above is below. The same truth that is above is hidden below. It is hidden. You have to find it. You have to work your way to it. That is part of the whole Leela. So the voices of that an inner listening hears conveyed to him their prophet utterances and flame-wrapped outbursts of the immortal word, again that projection of consciousness, the conscious message, and flashes of an occult revealing light approached him from the unreachable secrecy. So this is the long period of preparation of yoga that the king has to do to bring the soul out of its cage of covering of ignorance. Once that has happened, once the ego has been completely pushed away, then these are the experiences that come. An inspired knowledge, not a knowledge that is worked out by thought, but illumined knowledge from the higher mind, sat enthroned within. The light is always there, the knowledge is within. We are wrapped up in ignorance, but the wrapping is not what is within. It's an outer covering which has to be removed. So an inspired knowledge sat enthroned within, whose seconds illumined more than reason's years. Otherwise, mind grows a little at a time. Reason develops, helps us to understand, helps us to judge, helps us to classify. It's a slow process to move from the absolute brute into a mental being. And then when we come to that stage where we have crossed that barrier of mind, we quieten the mind, then there is a complete opening and there is a reception, a receptivity to the knowledge. Inspiration is actually breathing down. When you breathe in, you are inspired. When you are filled with another energy, another force, which comes from beyond. Every time you breathe in, you are taking in the universal energy into your lungs. It's a physical phenomenon also. So it is this, man is at the center of the universe, and all the forces of the universe can and do work in his nature. An ictus of self-revealing light. Ictus is a stress, it's a pressure, it's a stress. Of an ictus of revealing luster fell, as if a pointing accent upon truth, just like you have the accent aigu in French. It indicates this revelation, not thinking, but revelation. Revelation, vision, intuition, inspiration, these are things that are on the outskirts of mind. They take us beyond the mind to worlds above. And like a sky flare showing all the ground, a swift, intuitive discernment shone. Sky flare like a torch, held up high, it shows all the whole field of the being, just like a torch held up high shows the ground below, the entire being, the lower nature as well as the higher parts that had already accepted to be instruments of light. Everywhere the possibility of change, this came to him in a flash of direct knowledge. Intuition is that direct knowledge which is not worked out by thought or reason. And that is what is the true discernment. Discernment is not just a perception, but you might say, it's not just seeing, it's not just judging or understanding, but the ability to separate truly what is light and what is dark, to separate truth from falsehood. The mind has a huge ego. It thinks it can discern, it thinks it can understand, it thinks it can judge, and does not accept when it is told your judgment is partial and therefore not fully true. But when the intuitive discernment came, you see the truth that is really sustaining all things. It was like a light that really illumined his entire being. And so this is the intuitive discernment. He describes one glance could separate the true and false. In us, The lower nature, its ego, its darkness and conscience, is something that is temporary and has to go. It doesn't have a fundamental reality. Truth is only the expression of the divine. Or raise its rapid torch fire in the dark to check the claimants crowding through mind's gates. Otherwise, every thought tries to justify itself. Especially those who have developed minds, clever minds, always try to prove their point. You say one thing and you say, this is right. Another person sees things from another standpoint and he says, no, that is right. And this can go on forever, this kind of division, debate, discussion. Every element or every person in a discussion is so convinced that his standpoint and only his standpoint is right and the opponent is not. And yet the truth is not limited to my understanding. Truth is much more, much vaster. And therefore, when we see that the truth is not only in the world of the higher levels of consciousness, but hidden in the lower planes, what we realize is that we have to remove our ignorance, we have to remove our ego. Therefore, to check the claimants crowding through mind's gates, covered by the forged signatures of the gods. These powers of the mind and the vital that allow us to be like this for a long time, it's part of the process. It's a signature, but these signatures, which give us a kind of authority or a right, mind has its authority and its right, have to be finally made to be, you finally believe that they are just ultimately not of any real value. You have to reach the outer boundaries of reason before you can say you have to cross reason and enter into the world of direct vision and direct knowledge. Therefore, reason was the helper, Sri Aurobindo says. For a long time it was the helper, reason is the bar. This individual yogi, Sri Aurobindo himself, is a jnani, seeker of truth. For a long time, the mind will try to justify and explain what is true, what is not true. He realizes everything is an aspect of the truth, sometimes hidden, sometimes less hidden, sometimes for a long time partial. With the help of the mind, you see only partial truths. It's only with the widening and the deepening of the vision and consciousness that one can accept the reality as a total expression of the divine. And so, covered by the forged signature of the gods, this glance could detect the magic bride in her disguise. The magic bride is nature, is earth, disguised in all kinds of layers and coverings of darkness, of inertia, of apparent sleep. But she is there. The force of all change comes from below. We have that perception, that intuitive knowledge in even our traditions. For instance, if we think of Sita, she was found in the ground, in the soil. The divine Shakti of change and growth was discovered below the ground. You see Parvati, she is matter, the daughter of the mountain. So this knowledge that in the world of matter, the force of change, the force of growth, without this there would be no change, this energy. So she is the bride, she is the one who does the work, she is the one who takes mankind forward. The Lord is immobile. She is the active force. So this is where the opposition between nature and this consciousness is simply a temporary convenience. It is not the ultimate truth. You realize that earth and sky are together an expression of the whole manifestation. And that is why it is said that by the Greeks, for instance, that creation is a combination of Uranus and Gaia, sky and earth. Or as the Vedas say, we are sons of the sky by the body of the earth. We are children of the sky, of the heavens, of the divine, by the body of the earth. The earth is our mother, the sky is our father. So that makes one family, that makes one totality. There is no opposition, there is no division. So detect the magic bride in her disguise, the apparent face of thought and life. This came to him now in the form of a direct insight, a flash of light, an opening of the inner being. That is why this next passage till the end of the canto is all about this receptivity to a higher force, and that is on inspiration. Inspiration, you breathe in the divine consciousness in your lungs, in your nature. You don't only breathe in an automatic manner. We can do that. That is the basis of the true Hatha Yoga. Oft, inspiration with her lightning feet, a sudden messenger from the all-seeing tops, traversed the soundless corridors of his mind, bringing her rhythmic sense of hidden things. A music spoke, transcending mortal speech. As if from a golden phial of the all-bliss, a joy of light, a joy of sudden sight, a rapture of the thrilled, undying word poured into his heart, as into an empty cup, a repetition of God's first delight, creating in a young and virgin time. So this is the change that is happening. Often, inspiration with her lightning feet, again and again, inspiration, intuition are compared to lightning. It's a direct flash of light. It does not pass through the process of thought. Therefore, she is a messenger from the all-seeing tops, from the heights of knowledge. So we have the image of rivers of light pouring down like Saraswati or Ila. All these are forces that come from above. For to receive that, to be filled with a new light or a new power, comparing it to the vessel below, the vessel has to be empty. If the mind has to receive light, it has to be empty of its own so-called light, which is not light, which is half light, which is made of shadow, which is made of error, to which we are very, very attached. All these things have to be cleansed, wiped off, just like a vessel has to be empty if it has to be filled with something else. So that is the first condition. The mind has to be empty, traverse the silent corridors of his mind. This is the secret of the beginning of knowledge, to have a silent mind. This Sri Aurobindo experienced with the help of Lele, to achieve the silent mind. And then this mind opens to the universal light and the universal knowledge. Otherwise, our mind is shut up in its littleness. So traverse the soundless corridors of his mind, bringing her rhythmic sense of hidden things. You have not only light, but you have rhythm. Rhythm is beat, regularity. It is not something that is just a sound. When there is a sense of continuity and regularity in the beat, then only is there a sustained harmony. Otherwise, there's a breakdown. Sri Aurobindo stresses very, very often, particularly in the in his books on poetry and on expression the importance of rhythm. But if we look at the universe, the earth's movements, or all movements, are based, if they are beautiful and perfect, they are based on rhythm. Your heart has its own rhythm. If the rhythm is not right, there's something wrong with your heart. In your existence, in your patterns of being, in your feelings, if you have sudden outbursts of anger or jealousy, then there is a problem. But if there is a certain quiet and continued, sustained flow of energy, which is quite rhythmical, then it is sustained. The energy is not disturbed in any way. All we need to do is to read what those who were around Sri Aurobindo noticed about him. This continued quietness, the ability to uphold regularity, rhythm, is one of the most important characteristics. So bringing her rhythmic sense, she brought what? This inspiration, this vision and sound. You have this drishti and shruti. Inspiration is not just vision, inspiration is also expression. So the expression has to be accompanied by that which is a revelation of that which is not known or not seen before. It reveals truths, it reveals realities unknown to the surface disturbed little mind of man, which is encrusted with its own opinions and its own way of being and thinking. Suddenly that breaks open. So what is behind? That is heard. The unheard is heard. The unknown is seen. And this is the nature of the seer, the rishi, the sage, the poet. And so you have this sense of as if something enters into us. It cannot enter into us, opening us to a new light or a new truth, unless we are quiet and ready and open. And then we see. So, a music spoke. It is not speech, it is music. There is harmony. Transcending mortal speech. It's not a mental language. Inspiration is not. When sometimes you speak of poetry as a very beautiful poem, I often wonder what is really a beautiful poem when you are just transmitting some kind of good words, good knowledge, say you have to be like this, do this, or manifesting obvious truths in a very attractive manner. That is not inspiration. Inspiration shows that which has not been seen before. It's a breaking down of the barriers of ignorance to reveal things that are beyond the visible. So a music spoke, transcending mortal speech, as if from a golden phial of the all bliss. Phial is a small bottle. In the ancient days where there was a search for wisdom or knowledge in many parts of the world, there were two things that men were in search of: the secret of eternal youth and the secret of eternal love. Eternal youth means the secret of immortality. And the eternal love is the freedom from suffering. And this was really the basis of the alchemy which man pursued. The change of human nature. Alchemy is the change. There were alchemists, indeed. In fact, they were the forerunners of what is today's chemistry. But it was a search for the distilled essence. It's a distillation, it's a distilled essence of the secret of life, which is eternal life and eternal joy. And Whether man found it or not, he always was looking for it. These were the occultists, these were the alchemists. And that distillation was put in a phial. It was the essence of things. And this is really the true knowledge. Not the outside of things, but the essence of things. What is behind the outside. To see the very essence of things. So as if from a golden phial, the original creative Ananda, as if distilled into a word, into a sound, we can experience something of the divine Ananda in a line from Sri Aurobindo, as if he has made it compact. Savitri is a long poem, but you can find millions of lines here where just one word or one sound can take us or put us in touch with that original Ananda. A joy of light. That's it. It's a revelation. A joy of sudden sight. A rapture of the thrill, the undying word. Word is a projection of expression. It's not only experience, it's a projection of expression, and that is manifestation. Manifestation is a projection of the divine consciousness. The divine consciousness has put forth itself into play, into manifestation. It may have allowed itself to be covered here and there in darkness, but it is a projection of the original Ananda. So poured into his heart, as into an empty cup. This is the first condition. One has to be absolutely quiet and empty. So each time you receive inspiration, it is a repetition of God's first delight. Before the beginning of time and creation, there was only God. And then at some point he projected his force, his manifestation. Why did he do so? He was not obliged. He did it because of the delight of creation. This is what the artist does. The artist truly is not obliged to make anything. He does it because he wants to. He projects his delight of creation into form. The universe is a form, projecting himself. The created is always present in his creation. If the universe is his creation, he is present in his creation. The poet is always present in his poem. The painter is present in his painting. The universe is present in, the divine is present in us. We are his creation. We have forgotten that. But he has not. And the whole play of manifestation is to bring that out into the open. This is, each time this happens, it is in a young and virgin time. It is a new manifestation. Each expression of the divine is a new birth. It's a new manifestation. It is not a repetition of the old patterns. We stop there today.